In order to make money, you need to be aggressive. In order to keep money, you need to be defensive. The only thing I bet on is myself.
I'd probably go all in.
Look at Kane going all in. Bearing in mind everything, I would put...
How do you invest £10,000 for the best return?
Okay, well, how you do anything is how you do everything. So how you invest $1,000 or 10 grand or 100 grand, there's similarities. But because it's a different amount of money, there are also differences. And a lot of people think that the best way to invest money is in an asset that pays a return. Now, if you've got £10 million, 5 to 8% of 10 million you can live on, it's a good return. So the more money you have, the more you would look to invest the money in an asset that can pay a passive return, property, stock market, etc. The less money you have to work with the money. So the more money you have, you get the money working for you. The less money you have to work for the money. I've got a few caveats and criteria though, because it depends on your situation, how much more money you have, your age, your location, your experience. There's quite a lot of other criteria. How you would invest 10 grand being 15 years old is very different from how I would invest 10 grand being 75 years old. So for people watching and listening, you have to put into context your future plans. For example, you don't really like property, do you?
No.
Now, we used to be friends until you told me that. But if you don't like property, what's the point in putting money into property? You'd probably rather put 10 grand to a Rolex than a property, I'd guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of insane.
Yeah.
But if there's an asset class you just don't like let's say people are more ethically minded with investing, they're not going to invest in alcohol companies and tobacco companies. And actually, you can make investing strategies bespoke to you and your needs and your desires. I love real estate. But then on the other side of it, if you've got 10 grand, that's not even enough for a deposit. But it is enough to learn how to raise the deposit. So for example, I might say, put 2 or 3 grand into learning how to do no money down deals or learning how to raise money. So in a moment, I'll do my criteria of things to think about. Then after that, I'll tell you how I'll divide up the money. But let's throw it back on you. You're what, 25? 26, sorry.
Yeah.
Didn't add the VAT on. So I'll throw it back to you. As a 26-year-old, and I know I've put you on the spot because you're asking me, but how would you invest 10 grand?
Okay, so there's 2 things. Firstly, every pound you invest at 25 is 50 by retirement if it's in the S&P, roughly. So you do think, well, the earlier you start, the better. But also, I think if it was my last or only 10 grand, it would go into a business. So I don't like property, but I like business. And the reason I don't, it's not that I dislike property, it's the fact that I know per hour of my time, I can make more money in our business than I could doing property. And I'd rather make the money in the business and then invest in somebody who was in property. So for me, I guess that would probably go into mentoring if it was something I didn't know and I was perhaps the business is scaling and I've hit a ceiling.
So you'd invest in getting a mentor to teach you what you didn't know to make money you don't have.
100%.
Smart. Yeah. Interesting. So you're not actually investing in an asset. You're investing in a business and using your sweat equity, not just capital equity.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you think if you got a mentor at 3 grand and then you invested the 7 grand wisely, you could maybe turn that 7 grand into 70 grand.
Yeah, probably more if you've got a good business and good products and good retention.
But if you invested 10 grand into, let's say you could just squeeze a deposit in the shittest area in the northest of North England, which you probably couldn't. But if you could squeeze a tiny little 50, 60 grand house for 10 grand, you're not going to make a 70 grand return on that.
No, what are you going to make? A couple of £100 a month, maybe?
Net.
Yeah.
But here's something you haven't thought about, I don't think. Property has capital, equity, and income.
Okay.
So I want to come back to what you said, because actually part of my answer is your answer. But why I love property is because it has what I call the magic triad. Some assets only have capital, i.e., you rely on it going up in value only, like gold. Gold doesn't produce an income stream. You can't really get debt against it. You can't really buy it cheap. You buy it for its price. It's quite stable. And so you only get capital growth. With Bitcoin, you buy it at its price today. You can't buy it less than its price today. So you can't get equity in Bitcoin and you don't get any income stream. With property, it obviously goes up in value. In 1088, all land and all property in the UK was worth
$1 million.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now a garage in Kensington or Chelsea or even a car parking space isn't $1 million.
Yeah.
It's more. So property has the capital growth, which of course gold and Bitcoin do. And when people say, oh, well, Bitcoin or gold's gone up more than property, they're only measuring the capital growth without equity, without debt, without leverage, and without income. So that's capital. Income. So the stock market has income, i.e. you put money in stocks and maybe you'll get a 5 or an 8 or even a 10% in recent times return. Property has income because you have rental income and the tenant pays the mortgage and there's a bit left and you get that. So it's got capital and equity, capital and income, but it also has equity. And people don't understand this, but if you know what you're doing in property, you can buy a property that's worth 100 grand for 70 grand, that's worth £1 million for 800 grand. And you can get 20, 30, 15% equity in it, which is essentially can make it free. Because if you can get the amount of equity in a real estate deal, which is the same as the amount of deposit that you would put in with a good financer and knowing how to actually do the sort of the architecture of a deal, you can essentially have none of your own money in or none of your own money left in a property deal because you can buy it for less than it's worth. You can't buy gold for less than it's worth. You can't buy Bitcoin for less than it's worth. You can buy it and it go up, but it's only ever worth today what you pay today. But if you buy something dilapidated, if you buy something unloved, if you buy something empty, you can buy it under a price that you can then add the value to, put a tenant in. And it's called BMV, below market value. So you have equity, capital, and income in real estate. You can't buy a stock for anything less than it's worth today. You might buy it well, but it's still what it's worth today. Watches have no income. But if you have a motivated seller, you could buy it less than it's worth. So you could get equity in a watch. For example, I don't know if you remember the last banking crisis of 2008. I don't know if you'd got your nappies.
Yeah,
by
a couple of years old then.
But I was buying Rolexes for 5 and 6 grand off bankers who had gone broke and lost their jobs and were just like, shit, I need 5 grand. Give me, I'll sell my Rolex. So I was buying them below market value. So a watch can have equity and capital, but no income. A property has capital, equity, and income. Does that change your mind?
Yeah. I get the benefit of property as one of, if not the best asset classes. It's just the time it takes. And then at 10 grand, it's like, if you keep dividing up how much you invest with that 10, you end up getting like not a lot. So it's like, if I'm dividing, a little bit into this and a little bit that to a little bit, you're going to get like no returns.
But you just said earlier, let me challenge you on that. You said 3 grand on a great mentor, 7 grand on ads, could get 70 grand.
Yep.
What if you put 3 grand on a good mentor that taught you how to buy property, no money down, doing joint ventures with other people's money?
Yeah.
Then you could potentially buy infinite amounts of property.
You could. But I don't like property. It's boring. I get what you're saying. I just enjoy business. I like creating products. I like marketing. I like sales. I like doing content. Yeah. It's just more fun.
Well, that's one of the relevant factors I want to lead into, which is how you invest 10 grand depends on various factors that are probably quite individual to you. So let me list them. Number one, what do you actually enjoy? So the more you enjoy something, the better you're going to know it. I really enjoy watches. I just have a passion for watches. I enjoy cars. Property, I kind of enjoyed at the start. I don't so much anymore, which is why I've leveraged it out. You enjoy business and content. I enjoy content. So the first criteria you should think about when looking at how I invest 10 grand is, what would I enjoy? Like, what would I even do as a hobby? Because you'll just naturally get better at that than anyone else. Because if you think about it, you can kind of make money in anything. You can make money in mining Bitcoin. I don't enjoy it, don't know how to do it. You can make money in fine wine. I don't enjoy it, don't know how to do it. You can make money with collecting old books. People make a lot of money collecting old books. Pokemon cards. They make a lot of money doing that, or get scammed like Logan Paul did. Spent millions on a fake Pokemon card. Watches, classic cars, antiques, you name it. If you get really good at it because you enjoy it, because you know more than 99.9% of people, you can probably make a living investing or trading in that thing. So the first thing is, what do you enjoy? The second thing is, what are you good at? You're good at content. You've got the Podcasters podcast. You're good at podcasting. You're good at raising sponsorships for podcasting, because that's what you do all day, every day. So as much as I love real estate, if I was advising you, knowing that you don't really love real estate and knowing that you're good at content, I'd be saying more of it should go into content. So there's what you love, what you know, what you do. Then there's also what you need. So if you desperately need income because, you're broke and you need cash flow, I'm kind of more leaning towards you, which is learn how to grow a business, generate leads, run ads, trading. I don't really like flipping in property, but I get why people would flip, because they want to build a lump of cash. So if someone is more looking at their retirement, and like you said, £1 today could be £50 in 40 years just because of compounding, then you might put it into something like the S&P 500, the FTSE 100, or something that has long-term growth. Do you need more passive, or can you put time in? If you've got 10 hours a week or 50 hours a week, that makes a huge difference. You are an entrepreneur. You probably work 50, 60, maybe more hours a week. So you're putting in your money into that, you're going to get growth out of that. If someone's a doctor doing 60 hours a week, they can't do content. They can't generate leads. So they've got to look to maximize their 10 grand, which, might be a bit in gold, a bit in Bitcoin, a bit in the S&P. I might divide it those three ways.
At what point do you think it's worth diversifying?
In order to make money, you need to be aggressive. In order to keep money, you need to be defensive.
Right.
And people don't get the difference, but there's a real difference. In order to make money, you need to focus. In order to keep money, you need to diversify. Diversification reduces risk, but diversification dilutes focus. So then you add in, what am I good at? What do I like? What's my age? That's another thing. What's your age? If you're 25, you can take more risks than if you're 65. If I was advising you, I'd probably be less diverse. I'd be more focused. If I was advising someone who's 55 and thinking about retirement, I'd probably advise them to be a bit more diverse. And the last answer is this your only 10 grand in the world? Is this the future meals of your children, or is this 10 grand play money? Because if it's 10 grand play money, I'd probably put more into Bitcoin than if it wasn't. I'd probably put £1 or 2 into meme coins if it's play money.
Put it all on red.
Yeah, no, I definitely wouldn't do that. You know what I think about gambling. Yeah. I hate gambling. The only thing I bet on is myself. Okay, so I still haven't said how I'll divide the money. You sort of said how you would divide the money. So I'm going to give you a generic answer now, because remember, I've said 25 or 65, active or passive, blah, blah, blah. But let's just say you've got a gun to my head and you say, Rob, you can only make one answer. Because, people like simplification. I'll answer it and then you answer it. So bearing in mind everything, I would put 10 to 15% into gold and silver. And notice I'm working on percentages, not amounts. Because if you had 20 grand, it'd be similar percentages. If you had 5 grand, it'd be similar percentages. So I always work on percentage, not amount. Now, if the pound got really weak or the economy went really bad, like for example, the interest rates just went down and the Bank of England halved their growth forecast. So there's basically no growth forecasted. So that might me think, more gold. The worse the economy, the less you want assets that are linked to the economy. And generally, gold is counter-economy. So when currency is weak, when the economy is weak, when other assets are weak, gold is usually strong. But gold is just capital and it's a store. So probably, I'm going to say 15% in gold and silver, I would say. I'm going to say 10% in Bitcoin. I'm going to say 5% in meme coins because I want to figure these fucking things out. And I know I've probably just pissed that up the wall, but it's only 5%. It's only 500 quid.
Okay. So you're at $3,000 at the moment.
Yeah, we're at about 30%. Okay. Then I'm going to probably do at least 20%, maybe 30% in Vanguard Life Strategy self-investing fund, which I'm probably just going to put across S&P 500, FTSE 100. Probably not going to do emerging markets. So what are we at? 60%.
Uh-huh.
I'd wrap that in my ISA, so it's a tax-free allowance. Okay, so we've got about 40% left to play with. I mean, I want a watch out of that because I love watches. So I'm going to try and find the best watch for $1,000. So I'll either buy a couple of the newest, best Omega moon swatches. Some of them got little complications in them, like moon phases and things. Or I might buy a Meistersinger, which is a very unknown but quite boutiquey brand of watch, where you can get, it's a one-handed watch. And I remember buying Mark one for 800 quid a few years ago, my business partner, and I think it's like 2-3 grand now. So at least I've squeezed a watch in because I love watches. And the great thing about watches and gold and silver is completely decentralized. The only people that know that you've got them are the people that you tell that you've got them. And then the rest is what, 30%-ish?
So you've got 20% left.
30, I think. I'm going to put into ads and generating leads in my business.
Okay.
Now, you do yours, and then I'll explain why. Then you explain why.
I think there is a world where I'd invest 100% of it into courses and mentors at my age.
So you would invest in yourself because you're the best asset because you think you can pay yourself the best return.
Yeah. If I didn't know where to get started, I would just try 4 or 5 completely different industries just to find out what it is that really resonates with me.
And also you can start with an online course for a couple of $100 to test them out.
Exactly.
Or gobble up all their podcasts and their free content first. And then who you like and who seems legit, you can do their, because for 10 grand, you could probably get their masterclass course, learning the how-to, and some mentoring and masterminding with them, getting their support.
I think so.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like it.
I think there's no pressure to have, I'm 26, no pressure really to have your shit figured out until probably your 30s. And then that's 30s to 40s build. And then, what happens from there?
Okay, I've got, I know you're not finished, but let me just chuck this in. What about investing some of that money in life longevity so you can live till you're 120 and then you can make a lot more fucking money?
True. But people that care about longevity are rich and over 40.
I'm glad you didn't say old. You went, over 40.
Yeah. It hasn't crossed my mind yet because I'm still invincible, Rob.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, but if someone here is maybe 60, maybe they put $3,000 into living till they're 100.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of value in that, in stuff like meal prep, gym memberships, perhaps a PT if you don't really like that stuff, so that you stay healthier. Because not only could you live longer, you're better in the days.
Yeah.
You maximize how sharp you are day to day. Energy stays higher.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think
You'd go all in.
I'd probably go all in.
Look at Kane going all in. I'm not going to the casino with you.
Yeah, exactly. Put it on green.
You'll be doing this. Yeah. Put all
and
in
it's
on
his
green.
10 grand. Yeah. I think so. That will maximize my returns, and it's decentralized. I mean, unless somebody's got one of those little Men in Black clickers.
Yeah, no one, they can take everything from you except your experience and knowledge. Yeah. Okay, so are you going for that over putting some of it into ads and lead gen?
I think so, because if you find a mentor that can teach you how to do stuff without money, that can help. Like, for example, there's lots of marketing tools that take hard work, like cold calling, but it's free.
Yeah. Or content on social media organically.
Exactly. So I could learn about organic media and how to create content for free. Yeah. All my leads that come from that then create the working capital that can be reinvested into ads.
I think that's good advice for someone your age. And I'm going to stick to my answer.
Explain it.
So the reason I chose my way is just a bit of de-risk, a bit of diversification without too much diversification. And also to build experience. Like, you don't really know how gold works until you buy some. So for example, where do you store it? Where do you buy it from? What's the price? You only find out those things when you buy some. So the good thing about diversifying a bit, because I could, by the way, if it was $1 million, I'd be more diversified.
Yeah.
But the good thing about being in a few things, I mean, you could get rid of the watch thing if you're not into watches. You could put that 10% somewhere else. I just get enjoyment out of watches. I know you do too. But you actually learn shit. And, you know, making money is one thing, but that's different from managing money. And that's different from multiplying money. And that's different from maintaining money. So, you know, maintaining would be things like gold and silver. Managing would be maybe investing in the stock market and checking that through portfolio theory you're well invested across the right number of funds. Managing might be reducing costs in your business. Making money might be hardcore generating leads on ads and social media content.
At what point does your strategy change? How much money do we have to talk before your strategy completely changes from the 10?
I'd probably say 100.
Okay, so
100K.
your 5 grand, 10 grand, 50K, exact same strategy.
Probably not exactly. The more it goes up, notice I didn't say property in 10 grand.
Yeah.
In 50 grand, I'd get property in there because that's enough to either get a deposit or get the education.
Cool.
So, yeah, the higher we go up, I'm going to be more in property. With $1 million, I'm probably going to be 40 to 60% in property.
Okay.
Whereas with 10 grand, 40 to 60% isn't going to get you there. And also, you know, I used to be into physical assets like property. I'm now also into digital assets like Bitcoin, like, you know, my money school, you know, membership sites or software as a service or domain name. So money.school, that could be worth millions of pounds in the future. In fact, I was looking at buying money.com. Roughly, I think we looked at it, didn't we? $40 to $50 million probably. So, whereas I paid 9 grand, I think, for money.school. So that's a digital asset. So maybe in another episode, let's do how to invest 100 grand.
Yeah, let's do it.
And then maybe in another episode, let's talk about physical assets versus digital assets. See, digital assets are great in so many ways, but if you own a domain name, someone could just turn it off.
True.
Whereas if you own something physical, they've actually got to know where it is to get it off you.
Question. Earlier you said property has equity, income,
And capital. Yeah.
Does a business not?
A business could. I mean, you could buy £1 million business for 2 million and overpay by $1 million and be in negative equity of $1 million. Or you could buy a £10 million business for 5 grand like I did. It didn't, when I bought it for 5 grand, it wasn't a 10 million business. I grew it to be one. So there's definitely equity, but you can do it wrong as well as right. There's obviously income, but probably when you start your business for the first few years, there's a lot of your own sweat equity as well as equity. So, and of course, the longer you run your business and the more it grows, it should be worth more money. But here's the paradox. The more you work in your business, the less it's worth. So you could work in your business a lot. You could have a lot of income, but it's not really worth anything because you're stuck in it and you can't sell it because it needs you too much. So a business could have capital, equity, and income, or it could do all three really badly. Property, you probably don't, even if you do it badly, it's going to go up in value. You should be able to at least get 5% off the price. I mean, everyone offers a bit less, don't they? And if you buy just simple buy to let, you're going to get income. But, you know, if someone launches an AI business out of nothing, you could build tens of millions of pounds worth of capital, equity, and income. Because if you think about it, 15 years ago, the online businesses were e-commerce where people were selling physical product on Amazon.com. And now a digital product doesn't need any stock, doesn't need any premises. Airbnb don't have any hotels. Uber don't have any cars. So that I like the modern way. And the advantage you have is you've grown up that way. I had to relearn it because what I learned was, buy buildings, build teams, hire staff, build empires. That was all the billionaires I was studying. They were doing that. And your generation, because, we're a generation apart, is leverage the internet, leverage social media, leverage other people's assets. Do you know Netflix use Amazon's servers?
Oh, really?
They don't even do their own servers. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, so that's a different way of thinking, which people more my age, they struggle with more. People your age, it's potentially more natural. But I'm here to teach everyone can do all of it because I'm kind of sandwiched between the baby boomers. What gen are you?
Z, I think, just.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Yeah.
QWERTY.
Yeah.
You don't know, do you?
I think I'm just on the edge of
Right.
Gen Z.
You're just on, yeah. I'm always just on the edge.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just younger than baby boomer. You're between X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So, we can sort of bridge the gap.
Observe the masses and do the opposite. So if everybody is now doing online businesses, is there a good argument to say, well, actually teams and buildings and physical is a good idea because they're being overlooked now?
Well, there's definitely a lot of empty buildings in the center of my city that I can buy cheap. And we're putting a couple of big deals together right now. So I'm definitely not quit on that. And as you know, I was stubborn and belligerent about, I want to run live events. And I don't care if everyone in my industry is like, no, it's done. We're doing them online. I want to run live events. And, the experience and the connection and the ability to sell higher ticket, higher value products is better, easier, less friction, in-person, face-to-face live. And with AI, everyone's talking about the upside opportunity of the leverage of AI. But what about the reverse opportunity? Like if I get a phone call and it's an AI, I'm hanging up and I'm never answering that phone again. So we can try automating via AI agents. But what about all the people who want to speak to a real person? When I go on LinkedIn, I can see the AI-generated comments and I don't engage with them. So if you've got bespoke products and services, if you want to sell high-ticket stuff, the opportunity for you in AI is not AI. It's the lack of connection. Now you'll be more of an expert about me on this, but AI porn's really grown. I mean, what would I know? But, but obviously, I've got a mate, right? He's my mate. Yeah, I've got a mate. And he's got a VR headset.
Does he?
And I tell you what he does. I'm not going to mention his name, but I'm not going to mention his name. But he gets addicted to porn and then he goes cold turkey from porn. And then he gets addicted to porn and then he goes from cold turkey. And he's that kind of intense character. He's all in. He's having loads of coffee, then none. So anyway, he's recently got back into his porn addiction. And he's got this VR headset. And he says it's just completely lifelike. And I'm telling you now, absolute fact truth. I do not have a VR porn headset. I've got a good relationship with my wife.
Just a normal VR headset.
no VR. But all VR porn's going to do is make people want to connect with a human, is it not?
I guess so. I haven't tested the thesis.
So in all seriousness, the upside of AI is not just the automation, it's the connection. And, maybe you don't want to sit on Zoom and just go like this. And maybe you want to interact and connect. I spoke yesterday at a business expo. And people come up to you and they share business cards and they do a little pitch. And it's like, whoa, I've forgotten what this is like. This is great. I mean, if I had 10 grand to buy a product or service off someone, I'm not giving it to them online over Zoom. I want to shake their hand, look in their eyes. I want to have a couple of meetings with them. So automation is great for some things. But I agree with you. It's going to kick off a big upside opportunity the other way.
Boom.